Hello and welcome as people arrive into our Zoom. It's so great to have people join us. My name's Jenny and I'm from the Bob Brown Foundation. It's so exciting to have you all come. We have a huge turnout tonight, so we're just going to spend a couple of seconds waiting for people to arrive before we get started. And as you do arrive, I thought we could just have an image of the forests up while we're waiting for everyone. These are the stunning forests that we're here today to talk about. It's really exciting to have hundreds of you register to come, and we're looking forward to making sure that a lot of you do turn up. Just while people are arriving, we're just sitting here looking at the forests that are threatened by MMG that we've been fighting for the last 8 weeks. You can see incredible intact ancient rainforest here in front of you, which is in takayna, Tarkine. And if MMG were able to proceed, this entire forest would be flattened. So yeah, as I said, we're just waiting for more people to roll in. There's already 80 of you here tonight. As people are rolling in, I wanted to give a few protocols. We do have a safe space here in our Zoom, and we don't accept anyone being abusive or using offensive language. And we especially love if you're able to comment in the comments section, tell us where you're from tonight, and ask any questions. We can answer those questions in the chat room. We have a number of our staff members and volunteers on board tonight to help you with any questions that you might have. But yeah, we just really want to make sure that you respect each other, use non-violent communication all the time. And I think that with 80 of us here, we can get started, and I'm sure there's more people who will join us. I wanted to start by acknowledging that we're on Aboriginal land. From all over Australia, I'm sure you're joining us, and we're on Aboriginal lands across this nation. It was never ceded and it was invaded, and we must work together with the Aboriginal people to have lands returned. And especially here at the Bob Brown Foundation, one of our major focuses is return of takayna to Aboriginal ownership. So I'd just like to acknowledge that we are here gathering on Aboriginal land. I'm Jenny. I'm from the Bob Brown Foundation, and we've gathered you here today because we've just had a monumental campaign against MMG, a mining company, and we wanted to give you a little bit more information about that. We also have with us Eric, one of our campaigners, and Molly, another one of our campaigners, who will talk to you this evening. And excitedly, we have Casey from the bush out there on the front line in the rainforest, still occupying those threatened rainforests. So we'll hear from Casey out there in the forest as well. A fair bit of what I will do in the beginning here is to give you a PowerPoint presentation to really take you through what we're here for, why we've been in the Tarkine, and what's happened in these last 8 weeks. As I said, for those who have just joined us, we do have people who are going to be checking in on the comments and able to respond to you in there, and any questions that you might have, you're able to put them in the comments, and people will from our organisation be responding to you along the way. We've also got one of our campaign organisers, Doro Babek, who will also be able to answer any questions. So let's throw ourselves into it and get into talking about takayna Tarkine, and specifically the forests, a really small corner of the rainforests down near Tulla that we've just been spending our times defending in the last 8 weeks. Here you have an image of the road that has been being built by the MMG company, and this is literally the works that they've been doing in the last 8 weeks that we've been holding up and halting along the way. And you'll see in all the media and the propaganda from the mining company that it's not rainforest that they're knocking down, that it's actually old tracks that they've been clearing. And you can just see here, though, that despite it being an old fire trail that they were working on up until we stopped them a few days ago, it's completely surrounded by intact ancient primeval rainforests. This is deep in those rainforests and just near where people are currently camped, and a tree sit is in a tree. We're talking about ancient myrtles, myrtles that are at least 500 years old, incredible calodendrous myrtle rainforests. These photos that we're showing you tonight are literally inside the hot zone. They are basically where we could see the demolition of these forests if MMG are able to go ahead. And this is a really classic image I wanted to share with you all, because here's the myrtle rainforest. That pink tag is not ours, it's the mining companies. And that pink tag is literally where the new roads they want to build would be coming through. This is basically what they say is the small track. This is exactly what MMG have been doing over the last 8 weeks. MMG are a mining company who have been pushing in these roads for their proposed toxic tailings dump. And I'll give you a little bit more information about that coming soon in the presentation. I just wanted to bring you guys into the space and understand the reality of what we're trying to save and what we've been trying to stop. And here is the end of the road, literally surrounded by ancient myrtles, and our defenders there on the front line, monitoring what's been going on out there in the Tarkine. So 8 weeks ago, MMG sent heavy machinery into the Tarkine rainforest. They were proceeding with a project to build a tailing storage facility. We are calling that a dump now, not so much a dam. And according to authorities, their own documents that the company has given the government, these forests is likely to be habitat for species listed as rare or threatened with the Commonwealth. We were there every single day to protest against this shocking proposed project. We're talking about wedge-tailed eagle habitat. Literally, there's a wedge-tailed eagle's nest right adjacent to the site there in intact ancient forests. And in the times that people have been in the forest in the last 8 weeks, they've seen wedge-tailed eagles. We're talking about masked owl habitat. We're talking about critical masked owl habitat for this incredible owl. You know, the masked owl in Tasmania needs the huge old growth forests for its hollow bearing attributes that mean that it can nest in those trees. I wanted to bring you a little message from Bob Brown, who couldn't be with us tonight, but did go deep into these forests a day after meeting the Minister for the Environment, Susan Ley. So it was just only a week and a half ago when Susan Ley did travel to takayna Tarkine and meet with the miners and meet with us, the Bob Brown Foundation. Look, the Minister did not actually meet with us in the threatened forest, and we really do wish she had, and we did offer to do that. So the Minister was taken to part of the forest that is proposed to be flattened for the tailings dam, but the miners did take her to an area that is not the intact, incredible rainforest. And it was to our concern that we were prevented from being able to take her to the forests. But not only that, we've been prevented from going into these forests. They're literally shut down by the mining company, and Bob's been calling them the forbidden forests. Here's the photo on the left that Bob took of those incredible rainforests when he did go in there the day after that he met the Minister, and a photo of Bob down there with those ancient, incredible myrtles. As I said, yeah, these images are showing forests that are immediately threatened by MMG's plans if they were to proceed with such a tailings dam. What did we do about it? We took action, and a lot of you here tonight, I'm sure, you know, there's many of you that joined us on those actions, and it was every single day, relentless action. That's what we're really well known for here in the Bob Brown Foundation, is to not just stand by and let destruction of wild places and native forests happen on our watch. And it was an incredible show of community uprising and people power in what we achieved with those daily actions right up until the very end. And we're just so incredibly shocked and surprised at how incredible people did come out and take action for takayna. Whilst I want to get into those deeply with you and talk to you about that, I really wanted to take a moment to talk about the takayna campaign in a big aspect before we go deep into one special part of it. And one of those issues is the Takayna coast. And we must stand by and take one little minute to remember that last Friday, there was a huge win for the Tasmanian Aboriginal Centre and the Aboriginal community who have been fighting off-road vehicle proposals to send off-road vehicles down this incredible coastline into Tarkine. And the state government on Friday announced that it was actually going to cause damage to Aboriginal cultural heritage if they were to proceed with wanting to reopen those four-wheel drive tracks. So it's important to take these wins for the moment and then realise that there is an ongoing fight, because the Premier did come out on Saturday and say that they were committed to, finding that there was a problem. There was an impediment to opening up the tracks on the Takayna coast, and that was the cultural heritage. Imagine that. It's an absurd proposal, but we can never, rest on our laurels, and that's something that we'll talk about more here tonight around MMG as well. But just recognising that the Takayna Tarkine landscape is this incredible ancient coastline with Aboriginal heritage that rolls through the plains to these mountains you can see off in the distance and into the rainforests. We can't talk to you tonight about Takayna Tarkine without remembering that there are serious plans to log in the Tarkine. And whilst we were focused for the last 8 weeks solely on MMG, it was really important to put all our eggs in one basket. At the same time, the new plans for the 3-year plan logging in the Tarkine and elsewhere in Tasmania that's important to us, swift parrot habitat, Wentworth Hills, old growth forests, included areas in the Tarkine. And we must pay special mention to Rapid River, Kew Road, Mount Bertha and Boko. And Eric later can talk to us a little bit about that, because he's one of our campaigners on this issue. And here's a photo here of Eric in those ancient rainforests in Mount Bertha, which are critical wilderness forests that are on the logging schedule. So the logging coops in the Takayna are absolutely 100% high conservation value, like nothing we've ever seen before. They're literally logging rainforests if they can. But that's not without a lot of protests. So one of the areas that is on the logging schedule this year has been the one that we've been blockading, and I'm sure there's people here tonight who were involved in that blockade protest, and that was the area that they've been protesting on the last 8 weeks, called Helilog Road. Look, BO92C, as Forestry Tasmania like to call it, is an area where we held them off this last summer from logging, and last year the forest defenders pushed them out of those forests. And Mount Bertha is in the centre of the Tarkine, incredible ancient rainforest. Very few people have ever even been into it. It's unroaded, ancient ecosystem. Kew Road, we must mention that this year we have seen one of our forests knocked off the logging schedule, which is always something to give a reprieve to the forest and its defenders itself in the Kew Road. And some of you people may have visited that forest that's been known as 102A, and that's not on the logging schedule. Unfortunately, right near it, there is an area of rainforest of the same tract that we see in these coming photos of the threatened rainforests in the mine area. And lastly, Rapid River. Rapid River is a highly contested remote area of Takayna. It's wild, ancient, and it's got tall remaining eucalypts and incredibly important. And there's new logging areas back on the schedule there in Rapid River. So yeah, a lot of our campaigning at the Bob Brown Foundation is about logging, mining, and trying to prevent the destruction of intact rainforests and tall eucalyptus forests. And it would not be right also to recognise that whilst MMG is a huge looming threat for us in the Tarkine, there's another major threat, which is Venture Minerals' proposed Riley Creek mine, which is underway now. It is underway after a lot of campaigning from Tarkine National Coalition to try and stop it. It's the first of 3 proposed mines by Venture Minerals, and they're currently strip mining for iron ore at Riley Creek. One of the major problems about the Riley Creek proposal is it's home to endangered Tasmanian devils and spotted-tailed quolls. So we have to remember the wildlife every single time we think about what destruction is coming into Takayna. And the site is also a very big concern, because any money that would come from the Riley Creek mine operation will be used as short-term cash cow to fund the Mount Lindsay project. The flagship project for Venture Minerals, the mining company, is Mount Lindsay Mine, and it's situated in Rainforest in the Meredith Ranges Regional Reserve, and will be an enormous footprint if allowed to proceed. Just letting you all know that we at the Bob Brown Foundation are completely across what the threats are to takayna Tarkine, and we're strategically approaching the protest campaign and the lobbying effort to have it protected as a national park in light of all these threats that we deal with. What we did do, though, is the last 8 weeks we've focused in on MMG, because they literally turned up on our doorstep. The blockade team who was out there in those incredible forests in takayna Tarkine, protecting them from logging, had MMG turn up and say they wanted to drill down the back for a new tailings dam. So who is MMG and what are they planning? Look, MMG is a Beijing-based mining corporation. They're 74% owned by the government of China. I think one of the things that people get confused about is that we shouldn't be talking about it in that way because it might be racist. We're literally talking about the government of China. We're talking about the state-owned company here that's listed. It is listed in Hong Kong. It was listed in the Australian Stock Exchange, but it was delisted. And that was really so they could get their buy-in here into Australian mines. It does have really controversial other mines, including in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the Canadian Arctic, and it has a mine in Peru that's been blockaded by local farmers over the past decade, and at least 6 people have been shot in that time. And many injured. This is the same company that we're dealing with in takayna Tarkine right now. 285 hectares in takayna Tarkine is threatened by MMG for a toxic waste dump. They would like to build a 140 hectare tailing storage facility to store 40 years of waste. The proposed development on that 285 hectares would include the tailings dam, borrow pits, a bridge across Lake Pieman to pump the tailings across the lake, polishing ponds, access tracks, extensive roading, an enormous impact on an incredible ancient forest, but also an important wildlife habitat in the tall eucalyptus forest and Melaleuca. The 85-year-old Rosebery mine already has 2 existing tailing dams, but they're nearly full. And so they plan to pipeline across the river, the Pieman River, and want to build a dam in the rainforest. The tailings are the waste of their silver, lead, zinc, and gold from their Rosebery mine. What just happened in the last 8 weeks? I'm confident there's quite a few people on this call today who are still trying to work out what did happen, because it was quite a mean feat. But then there's some of you here who may just be new to us, or haven't really been seeing what's been happening. And so on the 18th of May in 2021, MMG arrived, and they arrived at our blockade, as I said, and that blockade had been in place for 143 days. More than 300 people had come through and held the loggers and the miners off from destroying that rainforest. MMG arrived that morning before dawn with riot police, with more than 30 police, and evicted us from that forest. And then we just rolled out daily actions from that very first day when one of the defenders was arrested, and then days that followed, sometimes twice a day. 71 defenders were arrested, including nurses, teachers, farmers, people aged 18 to 77, all walks of life came up and joined us, and more than 400 people engaged in frontline action over the past 8 weeks. On the 12th of June, the Minister laid down her decision that it was declared a controlled action under the EPBC Act. So the government decided that it was a controlled action, and this project would have to go through a federal assessment and approval before it can proceed. The big milestone where MMG halted work, and this is a fantastic photo that we'll all cherish of one of the machines heading out of the forests after 8 weeks of fighting it, was that last Wednesday, a day after receiving a letter from our lawyers that did indicate that we wanted to take legal action if MMG's works did not cease, MMG did start to remove machinery. And we believe that MMG was carrying out illegal activity, and so we called a halt for their road building. Look, our letter to MMG and Commonwealth Government pointed out that the works that they're doing, the current road building that they were undertaking, we understand is part of the major project. They do say that it's part of the exploratory work, and there's guidelines within the EPBC Act that would allow that exploratory work to go ahead because it's mineral exploration. But we were saying, no way. You guys all saw previously at the beginning of this presentation, the road that they were building. The road building exercise that was going on in those forests was all about building roads for this whole project. And that's where we're claiming that they're carrying out illegal activity under the EPBC Act. We have quite a bit of information here that we're happy to share with people. We're recording tonight, so you can go through and have a look at this again. But I just wanted to bring to you all tonight the real grist to the mill, get you every bit of information that we can give you. As I said, the MMG moved out a couple of their machines. There are still machines in those forests. They're completely silent. There are still 24-hour security on the road, and there is still a road closed sign. We question the jurisdiction of Forestry Tasmania to still have that public road closed. And then on Friday evening, this is one of the best letters that we've received in this 8 weeks, I tell you what, because not only had MMG made a decision to suspend all works, their South Marinoic, that's their word for their area of the takayna that they're trying to work in. And they committed that they had demobilised its workforce from the site, and they also committed that they would give us 7 days written notice whether or not they were going to resume or commence any work in the area again. So we are 100% feeling like this is a hiatus for now, but we aren't going anywhere. We're making sure that we're keeping a watching brief on it, and we are aware that this is a massive mining company, and we are aware that the Commonwealth is not necessarily, as we all know, a government that defends the environment. So we're just honestly keeping a watching brief from here. We also wrote to the Australian Federal Police asking them to investigate whether MMG has breached the Environment Protection and Biodiversity Act, and we've asked them to take appropriate action. This here is an image for you guys to understand what we're talking about and where we've been spending all our time. And if you can see down the bottom here in there's a road that's extending straight down the south of the image down the bottom. That is actually one of the tracks that MMG are being responsible for, and then also over to the other distance over here. What I would like to point out though is all that incredible intact ancient forest that you can see surrounding those, especially that track that's heading down the bottom. Thank you, Eric. It's perfect help. They're fabulous help. Just remembering that we're talking about ancient Gondwana-linked rainforests. What we have to understand now is that all of you are here to hear from us, and we've been answering the same questions about what next. What are scenarios playing out from here on in? Look, it could be that MMG can't return to works until after the EIS assessment. That could take 12 months. That is actually a reality that we're dealing with right now, but we absolutely have to be vigilant, as I've said. So if MMG find a way back to takayna, we will be there to protest on the front line. And we know that all of you and everyone else that came, and more people will come to those front lines, because this is a nationally significant issue in this day and age to be destroying such forests. If and when, I'm sort of saying when, Minister Leigh approves the project, because of course all of our efforts are going to be putting into pressuring the government to make sure that she doesn't approve the project. But when she does approve the project, which she's done so many times with so many problematic issues across Australia and the environment, we will raise the biggest fight for takayna Tarkine yet. What we're going to do very first is have an event. we really wanted to get people back into Takayna and reclaim that space in a big way. We'd really like to have a Reclaim Takayna open day. We were planning for this Sunday, but there's a fair bit of rain coming into the West Coast in the next few days, and we wanted to make sure that people were aware that we're going into rainforest, but we don't want to take them into flooding rainforests. So we're going to have a Saturday night dinner at the Waratah Men's Shed, and then we're going to camp the night, and at Waratah Men's Shed there's room for everyone to camp there. Then we'll be travelling down south to this site that we've been protesting at and walk into the threatened forests. Or we'll also have an option for people to visit the nearby threatened Kew forests that are threatened by logging, because we know that there's some of you folks that can't join us because you've on bail conditions or move on orders, which we're very thankful that you are, because you're the people who took it upon yourselves to participate in civil disobedience in defence of this wonderful place. We will launch this event tomorrow for you to be able to RSVP. So my apologies to folks who are not in Tasmania. That's a little Tasmania. Rah, rah. And what we'll get to later on this evening is a presentation from Molly, who's also in lockdown in New South Wales, who's able to share with you ways that you can get involved from interstate. We also are rolling out an incredible advertising campaign right now to apply pressure on the federal government to not approve the project. So whenever we get engaged with you over the coming months, when we're saying let's work out making submissions or, you know, being part of the federal government approval process, it's always going to be designed to say, don't approve this project. It has to be taken off the table, 100%. So we've had David Pocock join us, and we've got television ads in Tasmania running. We did also controversially run some Sky News ads because we wanted to make sure that we hit all those people who are in Parliament and their staffers who have sadly got Sky News on, and get it right into their face that this is not acceptable and we need to kind of Tarkine protected. We've had full page ads in the Saturday paper to again engage the people who are committed to the environmental and climate issues of this day and age in Australia, to realise that we need them. And we do have a petition. It's at 5,000 names and counting. We really want people to be using that petition because it's going directly to Minister Ley every time an email is sent. And it's also saying, please do not approve the project, regardless of any process that's underway now. What we are doing is keeping a presence in the forests. This is our incredible tree sit, and I did want to do a quick shout out to Ramji here in the tree sit, who has been incredibly generous and incredibly talented in making all of those films that you've all been watching every single day. Ramji was responsible for putting out a film every single day while we were out there on the front line, and it was just an incredible independent media opportunity for us. But here he is in a tree sit. And tonight we have our 8th tree sitter in the trees, and soon you'll be hearing from Casey, who's on the ground. But we have to keep our occupation in place in these forests as long as they're threatened. And as long as MMG is hovering and ready to come back into those forests, we want to be there on the front line. So it's really important to understand that you can also come and join us. When you're out of lockdown, if you're interstate, you can come and join us as ground crew, or if you're a climber. If you're anywhere in Tasmania right now and you're a keen bushwalking winter enthusiast who doesn't mind, you know, being out in the wilds in the winter, we need you. We absolutely do need you. And you can volunteer to head into the threatened rainforest by contacting Courtney at bobbrown.org.au. We're pivoting now from being on the front line out at the gate to being on the front line in these forests, and it does require the ability to do a fair bit of walking and bush camping, but we do absolutely encourage you to join us on the front line of the rainforest. When we're out there in those rainforests, we're now also, because we've got a bit of a breather, going to be turning to citizen science. We do citizen science really well with our bio-blitzes in Takayna every year, and we did an incredible citizen science project on swift parrots recently in the Eastern Tiers in Tasmania as well. So now it's time to see what we can find and do everything we can to document those threatened rainforests that MMG is trying to attack. So what's next in our big expansive campaign on this incredible people-powered campaign is having citizens head into these remote rainforests with us and be part of a citizen science project. here's Casey, the wonderful Casey, who's out right now in the rainforest, who I'm going to hand over to speak and point out that Casey here is sitting in a sassafras tree that has an incredible Antarctica Dixonia growing out of it. Now, this Antarctica Dixonia would be hundreds of years old, and these are the forests, again, that are literally threatened by this incredibly terrible project. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and introduce Casey, and just let you guys know that she is in the bush. She might have limited internet, so bear with her, because we really wanted to give you the story of the forest. So over to you, Casey.
Hello. Oh, I'm looking the wrong way. Hang on. Hello. I'm Casey. I'm out here in the knoll in Takayna. It's a little bit rainy. It's a little bit cold, but it's okay because it's beautiful. I mean, in the daylight. I wish I could show you all what it looks like out here. But yeah, we're staying out here. We're keeping a presence in the forest. We're showing them that we're not backing down, and come and join us. It is wet, it is rainy, it is cold, but it's so worth it. Like, walking through the forest out here is absolute magic. Like, it's like fairyland. Like, I have no other way to describe it. It's so magical, so beautiful, and you should definitely come and see it if you can. We've got, as Jenny said, the 8th tree sitter up at the moment. So if you are keen to climb, you are keen to hang out in a tree, come on out. But even if you can't climb, still come out as well. You can hang out on the ground. There's lots to do to support the tree sitter. Just like, so we've heard masked owls, which I like to hear those as well. When it's dusk, you can hear the, oh, what is this thing first called? The golden whistlers. They're so magic. Yeah, but get in touch, come out and join us. I don't know what else I have to say here, but yeah. What else would you like me to talk about, Jenny?
Maybe, hey, Eric, how about you have a little chat with Casey, so you two can have a little chat about the knoll. Maybe Eric could ask you some questions, and yeah, we can have a little Q&A for people over there in the all the people are here from all around the nation, so they could hear more about how incredible those forests are that you guys are spending so much time in.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Casey. Hello, Jenny. As you can see, I've managed to figure out how to be at the knoll while being warm. Beautiful photo here. How's the knoll? Yeah, so did you hear any masked owls? There've been masked owls at the knoll pretty much every day, which is incredible. They're an endangered species. They're beautiful, beautiful owls. Have you been hearing any, Casey, and the knoll crew?
I've heard one. We've had one when I was here last week, screech super loud, so that was pretty magic. But there's heaps around. I don't know, I can't hear them all.
Yep, so we've got bioacoustic recorders all around the site at the moment. So that's the beginnings of this citizen science project that we're going to be getting on with over the next few weeks to months. So these recorders record all the life that is during the night, and then from that we'll be able to distinguish whether there's masked owls and boobuks and all sorts of other life. But yeah, in the night you can also hear the ringtail possums, and you can watch them. There's all sorts of little critters that roam around. It's a pretty magic place when it's not raining, and when it is raining, you know that that's what it's meant to be, because it is a rainforest after all. So what how was your walk in today, or when you came in?
we walked down the road today, and it was pretty interesting because you're walking down a road, you're like, okay, it's a muddy road, and then you start looking left and right, and you're like, okay, there's some eucalypts here. You can tell it's kind of been disturbed, and then the further down the road you go, the more rainforest it becomes, the more you see of these giant old blackwood trees, and then you start seeing the tree ferns pop out, and it turns more and more into this magic rainforest that I don't know, MMG wants us to believe that they're not in the rainforest because at the start of the road it doesn't look that way, but the more you go in, the more you see.
Yeah, certainly. So as you're walking along that road, it's 7 kilometers of roading. On the tops of some of those steep hills, there are huge blackwoods, so acacias that they must have been there for hundreds of years, just on the top of those knolls. And yeah, like you say, as you get down towards the Pieman, it turns into this beautiful tea tree swamp land. It's bud and grass plains that are really common in the southwest, in the northwest, in Takayna. And interestingly, Susan Lay was taken to the tea tree area simply so that MMG were able to say that they're not destroying any rainforest. The day before she came, that afternoon, they moved the machines out of the rainforest and put them right at the bottom, right into the tea tree swamp for her visit. So it's all a game of smoke and mirrors on their part. They're evidently covering something up. So, and it's really great that we still have the ability to have people right now, like Casey and the crew up there. There's someone in the tree right now. There's no way they can come and move us. It's really powerful. It shows that we've got a resistance that's not prepared to move in the middle of winter, 42 degrees south in Tasmania. You know, usually we have a bit of reprieve during the winter, but yeah, you guys are doing some incredible work by just being there and holding that space. So reclaiming the rainforest on all our behalves.
It's so worth it. I think everyone that I've spoken to that's come out here just falls in love with the place. I know especially me. When I go home, I'm home for like 2 days or so, and all I can think about is coming back to the knoll. All I can think about is being here, and I just feel so good when I'm out here, and I can't even imagine it being crushed and taken away. So we'll be out here fighting for it.
It's incredible. And there's 121 other people in this Zoom meeting that should absolutely come down that road and come and visit during this open day that's getting held on the 1st. It's an incredible place. It's not that difficult to get to. Anyone that can really should while it's still there. If you can't, you can just look behind me. It's great.
So Eric, we're going to go over to Molly now. So thank you, Casey. So thankful for you to be able to broadcast to us from out there in the rainforest. I mean, how incredible this day and age is. But as Eric's saying, to be able to please head down if you can, contact us to get involved. And what we're going to do is we're going to hear from Molly, our campaign organizer, who is our national community organizer, so is available there to have people from around the country get involved and help us. Some of the questions that we've already had we'll answer together. I'm going to do a little Q&A at the end, and I'll give some questions to Eric to answer. But I just wanted to point out that we absolutely agree with you that everything that we're doing as this small team at the Bob Brown Foundation is trying to build awareness and get as many people as possible to hear about this issue and do what they can to act on it. And whilst we're here saying come to the front line, get involved in all these different ways, any small thing that you can do is really important. So over to Molly. Here we will hear from our wonderful community organizer.
Hello everyone. Thank you, Jenny, and Eric and Casey. As Jenny said, I'm one of the campaigners at the Bob Brown Foundation. I'm sadly not in Tasmania alongside everyone else. I am up in Wollongong, and we're in the middle of a lockdown like, what is it, like 12 million of other Australians right now. So I feel your pain if you are in lockdown. We've had a lot of people contacting us from different parts of the country, wanting to be involved and despairing that they can't get down to the front lines and help out. But there are still a whole bunch of things that you can do. And indeed, one of the most important things that we really need to do to get permanent protection for the Tarkine is bringing this campaign into the national arena and making Tarkine a household name. You know, so that everyone from Cairns to Perth are talking about Tarkine and they know what it is and they know why it's worthy of protection. So in order to get that level of, you know, a national status for the Tarkine, we need everybody on board with our campaign wherever you live. So even if, you know, you don't live in a traditionally green area or not, there's a whole bunch of work that can be done, ranging from running events and increasing awareness of the Tarkine, and, you know, telling people in your community who might have never even been to Tasmania about Tarkine and how wonderful it is, all the way to using your power as a voter and as a constituent, pressuring your local member to speak up around the MMG issue, and even just things like meeting up with others in your community who care about the environment, and putting on events and activities that are really exciting to you and the other people around you. One thing I will note before I go into some of the activities that we're recommending people do is that I just wanted to say that we're pretty open to most ideas from people. So if you've got a really good idea for something that you know would work where you live, that would get people talking about Tarkine and would get them really enthusiastic to join us, then I want to hear from you, because we're always keen. We know that you know what works better in your community than what I do. And some of our best events and activities have come from people coming to us with ideas. So I will give you a few suggestions of activities that we've got resourced at the moment. But like I said, I'm super keen to hear from you about whatever it is that you might be interested in doing in your area. So the biggest thing I think that we've been doing lately, and it's a bit hard while we're in lockdown, is, I'll just share my screen. The biggest thing that we've been doing in lockdown, the biggest thing that we can do once we're out of lockdown is some of these awareness raising events for the Tarkine. And we like to do that through a whole bunch of arts activities. So the first one is this image on the left-hand side, and that's the big gig for takayna. So we're really keen to explore using music and gigs as a tool for increasing our engagement and bringing new people on board with the campaign. And so we're asking our supporters and people like yourselves to consider hosting or holding a gig or a concert in your local community, at a pub, at a community hall, or in a cafe on the 6th, 7th or 8th of August. We have had some people who are in lockdown zones and they are going to do like a virtual event on Zoom instead of a real life concert. But we are also thinking about having another one of these concerts later on in the year for all of those people who have sadly missed out. So the kind of theory behind these gigs is that they're a bit of a light touch activation event, where we're keen for you to make it your own event with your own music and your own acts and your own sort of musical themes. But we're really keen to resource you with a whole bunch of campaign materials. So, you know, we can give you all the t-shirts and all the stickers, and we can give you all of the postcards and the info about the campaign, so that you can bring the people in your community together over music, and then you can pass on our campaign info to them. And they'll be able to sign up for Frontline, and they'll be able to sign up to our email list. Yeah, so it's a really good way to connect with people in your local community. It is also a really good opportunity for us to raise funds as well. And it's also just really fun. So definitely, if you're keen and you like music, then let me know and let's organise a gig in your local community. We are super happy to help you with like the ticketing and the promotions, and we've got some cool posters. The design here on the left-hand side is from a poster that a local artist called Alice made for us, and it's really cool. So we've got all of that stuff to help you organise your gig. There is a URL that I have got that will be coming up on the screen in a minute. So you can click that URL and sign up, or you can also just shoot me an email. So the other sort of art-based event that we're trying to encourage people to get around in their communities are some of our arts exhibitions. So we every year run a environmental arts project down in the Tarkine. We've been doing that for the last 4 or 5 years, and we've got so much Tarkine art and photography, beautiful images of landscapes and paintings and prints. And we think that art is a really fantastic way to tell the story of the forest. At the most basic level, it's a real literal example of exactly what's at stake. So you can put on an exhibition in your local town and show people pictures of the forest that's at threat. And a lot of people haven't even heard about Tarkine. I think often we find that when we're in the Tarkine, we meet people who say they didn't know that it was there, but they saw a photograph of it in a book or something, and they said, that's where I want to go. So that's how people come to the campaign and come to love the area. So last, maybe a month ago or something, we held an exhibition called Takayna, A Journey down in Hobart at the Long Gallery. And that's a pretty serious exhibition with a huge amount of artworks, you know, some really beautiful, expensive works. And we're super keen to show it at galleries around Australia. At the moment, we've got a show in Newcastle in the works. But I'm really keen to hear from anybody who might own a gallery or knows people that run a gallery, or they just have somewhere cool in their local town where we could bring this exhibition and set it up and show it for a couple of weeks. The other option we have with artworks is that we've got hundreds and hundreds of photographs. So if you don't have the sort of resources or capacity to be able to put on a really big exhibition, another great thing that can be done is just reaching out to your local cafe or a bar or a shop or something like that, and they might be interested in just having some of our beautiful Tarkine photographs and campaign materials on display in their business. So if that's something that sounds like it might work in your area, please let me know. We can organise that really quickly and easily, and that one's just a really quick one that we can pull off. So that's it for our 2 arts events. Like I said, if anybody's got, you know, fun ideas and ways that they think they can engage the community where they live around Tarkine, then absolutely let me know. The next action that we are encouraging people to get involved with is the snap actions that we've been pulling off around the country. So this is particularly around the MMG campaign. We had a whole bunch of people reach out to us from different parts of Australia and put up their hand for running a snap action in their area. So this photograph is a bunch of wonderful supporters in Albury who came together over, I think it was probably 2 or 3 weeks. Every day they were out the front of the Environment Minister's office with a banner, with a whole bunch of Tarkine materials, and just basically putting pressure on Susan Ley to reject the mine. So they did that in the lead up to the first decision day. This sort of idea around this is all about raising the profile of the campaign for your local member, whether or not it's Susan Ley, it doesn't matter. All of the MPs are important targets in this sort of a national campaign. So it's really to put the pressure on your local politician and encouraging them to be proactive around Tarkine and remind them that just because it's not in their backyard doesn't mean they can ignore it and it doesn't matter. So yes, this photograph is a bunch of supporters that we had in Albury. And I don't know if any of them are on the call, but if they are, I just wanted to extend a massive thank you to them, because it was a few weeks after this that Susan Ley actually came down and visited us in the Tarkine. So I have no doubt that the people in Albury coming out in the cold and windy conditions that they had up there every day to put pressure on her contributed towards her decision to come down and see the Tarkine. So we're always keen to work on little mini actions like this with you. We can give you the banners, like you can see in the background, the green one there is our Tarkine banner. The key thing I think in pulling off one of these snap actions is that it's good for you to reach out to us first so that we can provide some strategic guidance and connect you with others in your area so that you can have the most impact. So even if you think that you live in an electorate that doesn't have that much sway in the Tarkine issue, we can always come up with something strategic and fun. So please shoot me an email if you're interested to get out on the streets in your community and make a bit of noise. I will also just add here, we don't have any details yet, but we are keen to get something happening in Melbourne in the next couple of weeks. Of course, being aware that there's a lockdown happening, but it looks like Melbourne's going to get out of it a lot sooner than some of us, the rest of us. So if you live in Melbourne and you're keen to be involved in some sort of action in your city, then please let me know. My email address is going to pop up in a few minutes. So there is a few other things that I wanted to talk about. The third thing is engaging with your local MP. So you can do something like the photograph that I showed before with the supporters outside Susan Lee's electorate. But also some other forms of contact with your MP are really good for putting the pressure on around the MMG issue. So when we had these groups in Farrer at Susan Lee's electorate, it unfortunately coincided with the last Melbourne lockdown. So all those people that were south of the border were unable to participate. But we had a really clever activity undertaken by one of our supporters there in particular called Bart. He wrote to his own local member, who was Dr. Helen Haynes, about the Tarkine campaign and about preventing MMG and, you know, how important it was to him as a voter in her electorate. And he asked her to pass on his message to Susan Lee, and she did that. And that was a really wonderful example. It's a super successful activity. Not only did Helen respond to Bart, she passed it on, and we can only assume that that had some impact on Susan Lee. You know, it's good for her to get pressure from other MPs and other members of Parliament. So I would definitely encourage people to think about participating in MP engagement. It doesn't have to be a meeting, but it can be. It can be just a letter like Bart did, or a phone call. I think a lot of MPs are offering Zoom meetings. So if you're super eager and you're locked down at home, but you still want to have a chat to your local MP, then please get in touch with me and I can talk you through how the Zoom meetings work. But yeah, the big one there, I think, is just encouraging people to touch base with us before you reach out to your MP, because we've got a whole bunch of resources that you can pass on. We've got a report. We can do a bit of strategy and look at who your member is and what the best approach to take is with them. And yeah, so that's a really good one. The second one that I wanted, or sorry, the fourth one that I wanted to talk about is the Eia submission process. So as Jenny mentioned, we are in a bit of a reprieve at the moment while the Eia process is going on. But I did just want to highlight that Eia process offers us an opportunity to engage with the process. There's two separate submission points during the Eia processes, and they give citizens like yourselves and constituents the opportunity to comment on MMG's proposal, either on the assessment procedure itself or on the findings of the Eia. So it's really useful to have a wide range of people providing thoughtful and useful submissions that can pull apart MMG's assessments and unpack their mitigation strategies for their impacts, and just genuinely showing a groundswell of opposition to the project on like well-founded scientific and fact-based terms. So it's also an opportunity for us to, you know, push any alternative sites that they might put forward or seek clarification on some of their conclusions and just generally unpack the assumptions that might underlie parts of their assessment. And mostly it's just good to be able to emphasise that environmental decisions need to be made with the environment as the main priority and not the economy or industry. So this type of engagement is really important, and particularly when we combine that with a pressure campaign on the minister. So doing some of the other stuff that I talked about, like events or, you know, snap actions at the front. These things kind of have a double pressure point, a way of getting in there, and can have some positive influence in the final decision. So there have been some kind of interesting examples where the general public have had an influence over final decisions and outcomes. For example, there was the Warragamba Dam, I think, which is coming out this year, but it's likely that some of the public sentiment around that will have an influence. And also recently in Wollongong, we had the Dendrobium mine, which was rejected and got a whole bunch of public submissions around it. So it is an important process to engage with. So we're going to work on a strategy around that, and we intend on providing you with as much info as possible when these public comment periods have come up, so that you can make some really well-informed and useful submissions. And we might hold things like workshops and public events in preparation for that, so stay tuned. So I know that I just talked a whole bunch about some stuff. I'll just share my screen again to remind everyone. So a bunch of things you can do. The awareness raising events, we've got Big Gig for Takayna. There is a URL on the screen there. It's www.bobrown.org.au/event gig sign up. Head there, you can sign up, and you can also get a bit of info about what it will entail to hold one of these gigs. There's also local art exhibitions, so contacting me to put one of those exhibitions on. And then otherwise we've got the snap actions in your town, contacting your MP around MMG, or engaging with the submission processes when the time is right. So my email is at the bottom there. And of course, feel free to shoot me any suggestions. We're always keen to do fun things that you want to do. So I think that's all from me. Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you, Molly. That's so great. I wanted to point out that we have an incredible team here at the Bob Brown Foundation, and just standing here listening to Molly then and hearing from Casey and Eric reminds me of how we have a dedicated team of incredible campaigners, and knowing that there's people tonight at the base camp in Tulla who are already watching as well, and including Colette, one of our coordinators there, and Scott Jordan, our takayna Tarkine campaigner. There's been an extraordinary effort from our team on this mission, and we will continue to dedicate ourselves to takayna and protection of takayna and ending native forest logging. And whilst all that's going on, and you've seen this extraordinary, phenomenal effort over the last 2 weeks, we've also had our campaigners on Antarctica working away, and Molly was even helping on that front as well. So yeah, big shout out to our incredible Bob Brown Foundation team. I'd also like to make special mention here of the volunteers, and one of the volunteers on the event tonight has reminded me that each Saturday for the past few Saturdays at Salamanca markets, people have been getting together and holding a banner and handing out flyers about this issue, and importantly raising the alarm about MMG's attempt to destroy a rainforest. And so you can join that banner holding group, and we are hoping to turn it into a market stall at Salamanca markets from here on in for the important necessary efforts to at the grassroots continue to let people know about what the issues are, but more importantly get how people can get engaged and get involved. There's a couple of anecdotes I wanted to do before I hand over to Eric, our campaigner, to finish off the night for us. And one of them was, we again took the risk and had a Sky News journalist come on our campaign on the front line for 2 days when Shane Howard, the incredible singer, was with us. And I should note that Shane Howard has just sent us through the recording of his new song that he's written about takayna. And Shane Howard is a famous Australian musician for singing with the band Goanna. And we will be putting that song to a video clip and releasing that in the near future. But that Sky News story did have the acting general manager say that generally they were losing about half a shift every day, 5 days a week during these last 8 weeks, which was entirely our intention to delay and hold up the works. And someone did say, well, in this event tonight, why didn't the letter go earlier from the lawyers? The trigger for our legal letter was the controlled action announcement by the minister, and that allowed us to then have a legal tactic. So we had a frontline action tactic, we have the MP engagement and MP pressure tactic that Molly talked about. We had a rally here in Hobart with 1,000 people, and it's all the different tactics that come together in a campaign. I'd also like to just finish before I hand over to Eric to point out that there are alternatives for MMG, and we will be releasing more and more information about that over the coming days. But MMG don't need to cost a rainforest for this proposed tailings storage facility. We know that globally there are companies who are storing their facilities on site in paste fill plants. We know from experts in the mining industry who are telling us that that is an option for MMG. We know that one of their mines in Queensland already does that. They've already got a paste fill plant for a polymetallic mine. We know that nearby there's a mine, the Renison tin mine, that is also looking at paste fill plant. So we're talking about the fact that they don't need to take the cheapest, nastiest option, which is destroying a rainforest. MMG can find an alternative, and that's why we've been saying it's a win-win outcome for leaving takayna intact as a remarkable place that it is. And one of the best lines out of Shane Howard's song is, you know, let's just leave Takayna as we found it, you know, before white people invaded this great, incredible country that we live on. So I'd like to finish by saying thanks to you guys and handing over to Eric, who's been on the front line with us since the very first day. An incredible effort from Eric, and he'll send us off with a little, not a song, a little chat. Over to you, Eric.
I won't be singing, but no, thanks Jenny. Thanks Casey and Molly as well for your updates from all the way on the mainland over there. I suppose I'd just like to wrap by saying this is the beginning of a very large campaign. So we're not looking at going anywhere, and we've told them that. And I remember telling the general manager of MMG in a meeting we had at the very beginning, I said to him that we are not going to go away. And I think he is hopefully every night turning in his bed, remembering that, not being able to sleep. I'd also like to just thank everyone here on this call, but also, so there's a lot of people that have come through Tulla in the last 8-9 weeks. Everyone, I'd just like to thank everyone who's come through, walking along that road on the front line in the middle of the night, attaching themselves to the machinery, or walking down, taking people in that have roles that would just support roles, but they are so important. People have been going in there in groups, not knowing anything about the area or anything about campaigning, and they've been tight. The people who have been climbing trees to occupy, the people that are holding the knoll, like Casey, so important for our intelligence of what's going on in there every day, and a real resistance, a reclaiming the rainforest. I want to thank everyone who managed our hub in Tulla, cooking and looking after it, and all the drivers and everyone that brought things and took things away and made things happen from there. Most of these people, most of you who went to the box, have probably not even seen the rainforest that we're talking about. And that's why it's really important that everyone that can tries, if you can, get out there, even to a tract of rainforest that's really near there, because it's all part of the same kind of rainforest. It's really important that you really get out there and get inspired. I want to thank the banner painters. We wouldn't have done anything near what we've been able to get, the outreach globally, without the banners sending messages. People have been in the Hobart Campaign Centre just on their knees painting banners for weeks upon weeks, and that's an incredible feat. The people that sewed the banners, we're talking kilometres, reams and reams of hemming and eyelet punching. I want to thank the people that collected things, took them to the various places. Sometimes I didn't even know what these things were for, but they were integral parts of this campaign. Those of you who donated, so money is something that obviously these campaigns cost a lot of money, and every dollar absolutely made this happen. All the drivers and the filmers and the photographers and everyone who did something, basically everyone who did something, it was an integral part of this whole machine. And we've proven yet again that direct action works. The resistance of people in this space has meant that MMG has had to now back down and have a second thought about what the hell's going on. You know, the science has spoken that these forests are worth more standing. We have our lawyers absolutely annihilating them on that side, and direct action from our front. All that, the trifecta of pain for MMG is working, and it also sends shockwaves across everywhere else that is considering putting mines or anything else into Tarkine and places around Australia and the world, that the people do hold that power. And that's what activism looks like today. And we do need every single one of you to get involved in any way you can. So do take heed to what Molly has been saying is really important. If you hear that things need happening, it's because we really do think that it's important and that it makes an impact. So please just stand up. We've got to win this, and we got to hand this land back to the Palawakana, the Palawapakana people of Lutruwita. And at the end of the day, that's what we're looking for takayna Tarkine. So thank you all, and yeah, have a wonderful evening, everybody.
Thank you, and see you all later. And anyone who can get SBS Viceland tonight, you can watch Wild Things with Dr. Lisa Searle and forest defenders out on the front line in takayna Tarkine. So thanks everyone, and see you all later.